we have two new teams that have joined. Excuse me, the graveyard. The Atlanta Falcons and the Cincinnati Bengals. A moment of silence for them. Thank you. That's as long as the silence they deserve. They're both 3-7. Kevin, both these teams are, oh my gosh, atrocious. Bengals defensively, and then they couldn't put together an offensive performance this weekend at all against Pittsburgh. And Atlanta, I can't even believe it's so bipolar with their fans because I know them so well. Half of them, and if I'm specifically could be talking about one person. Half of this person thinks, fire Raheem Morris, why isn't Bijan touching the ball, all of that stuff. The other half is saying, I'm actually happy with how he performed this weekend against the Panthers. And neither of those two halves have grasped the fact that the whole reason that Arthur Blank picked Michael Penix was so that they would not have a quarterback controversy, which was a quote from Raheem Morris, and not have a quarterback need the next few years so they could continue to pick elite players in the draft like Bijan, like Drake London, and hopefully what they expect in Jalen Walker and James Pierce. Now Penix is hurt. He's torn his ACL, this time only slightly, not fully, but he's torn his ACL for a third time. Even if he was healthy, which he was fine in the Panthers game until he got hurt, but he has a 4-8 career record. Kirk Cousins has fallen off a cliff, and you gave him 4 years, $120 million. And now you might go into this offseason needing a quarterback because you don't know if Penix is going to be healthy playing next year. Hey, but it's all good. We can tank, right? We have a first-round pick. No, you idiots. Traded it away for James Pierce Jr., who's been okay, but he is not worth what this first-round pick is going to be worth for the Los Angeles Rams. The Falcons join the graveyard. And for the Bengals, sadly, Burrow's return won't matter because they are 3-7, and their next 4 games are against the Patriots, the Ravens, the Bills, the Ravens. They are looking at 3-11, and Joe Burrow will return for the game which they will more than likely be 3-10. So why even play him, honestly? Yeah. Why not just play Joe Flacco the rest of the year?
That's the actual team that I proposed the CJ Stroud benching. That's the actual, just don't even bring Joe Burrow back.
There's no reason to. But Bengals and the Falcons, they made it 11 weeks, but they have joined the graveyard. It sucks to see the Falcons go there because I'd love to talk about them every week, but I'm done, man. I can't. I can't listen to them anymore, and I can't watch them anymore. So they are in the graveyard. And for the teams left off now, the Carolina Panthers got their win over the Atlanta Falcons, but I'm not moved. They are way too wishy-washy. They're 6-5, I get it. But it was the Falcons. I do want to give a ton of credit to Bryce Young for his performance. I'm really happy for him. I wanted him to do well. I like Bryce Young. I loved him out of college. Maybe not number 1 overall pick love, but I loved him. What was one thing he did in college that if you had one word to describe him, he was... Clutch. Bryce now has 10 game-winning drives in his career. He has been clutch. That's amazing. But this is just his second game of 200 passing yards this season. Of course, he set the
Can he count it for 2 because it was 400 yards?
No, I don't. I won't count it, sadly. But 448 passing yards, franchise record. I need to see more consistent performances because I'm scared next week he will throw for 168 yards and it won't matter. Panthers are going to stay left off. They still deserve to be power ranked here. Last week, the Pyramid got this game right. Last week, the Pyramid leaned towards the Carolina Panthers against the Falcons.
No way we're referring to the Pyramid as a model at this point.
And the Pyramid was right. And I stand by that. So Carolina ended up winning and covering. And the Pyramid's correct there. Carolina will stay on the teams left off. Now we can move to the actual Pyramid, which will look a little interesting this week. We'll start with the first tier, Tier 6. The Pittsburgh Steelers are in such a brutal spot. They're going to stay where they're at. Rodgers is hurt. He won't play this weekend. And it's such a brutal spot because you wish you could play Will Howard. You wish you could just play them. But you can't afford to lose games because you're going to lose the division to the Ravens, who are just a game behind you. So Mason Rudolph has to start games. No one wants to be in the scenario where you have to start Mason Rudolph. You're at Chicago this week. The defense needs to find a way to win a 16-13 kind of game. They need to battle and shut down the opposing offense like they have the last 2 weeks. But you need Rodgers to return. But, man, you almost wish you were like 3-7 right now, and you could just play Will Howard and see what you have there. Because I've heard a lot of positive things in-house about Will, but he can't play him because you need to win the division because you're in the division lead through 10 weeks of the season. So it's such a brutal spot for Pittsburgh, but it's Mike Tomlin. It's eternal. They do this every single year. They are in, what did you say?
Pittsburgh Purgatory?
Exactly. They just continue to be in a spot where they are too good to have a top 15 pick and get an actual quarterback, but not good enough to actually go win the Super Bowl. And it's just year after year. They're looking at 9-8 again.
They are. They're 6-4, and they still have to go to Chicago, play Buffalo, at Baltimore, at Detroit, and Baltimore again. Those are some of the games. They could very easily finish 9-8.
Yep. Who would be shocked? The Niners stay where they're at. Brock came back and looked brilliant. This team is making the playoffs, I guarantee you, because their next 3 games, they're 7-4 right now. They play the Panthers, Browns, and Titans. They should go 3-0 and be 10-4. And then they'll play the Colts, Bears, Seahawks to end the year. If they can just win one of the 3 games, they're an 11-win team. That should be enough to make the wild card as a 7 seed. 2 is, hey, maybe you're competing for the division. 3 is almost guaranteed at 13 wins to be competing for the division. It should be enough, though, if they go 4-2 of the next 6. They remind me of a 7-seed team with one of the quarterbacks I love, where they were dangerous maybe offensively. You know, maybe they have a good offensive day and they beat you. They have an opportunistic defense. But when they get in the postseason, they'll just be overmatched by whoever they play in the 2-7 game. This is a team that played in the postseason in the last 2 years. They remind me of the 7-seed Seahawks with Geno Smith, who faced off against the Niners, got blown out by the Niners in the first round. But, hey, maybe they're a little frisky with their offense and maybe with their defense. They didn't do enough in the postseason. I think that's going to be the same fate for the San Francisco 49ers, and they'll stay where they're at here on Tier 6. The Cowboys are here as well. Dynamic offense as known. They added pieces, looked good, especially the returning guys from injury, but Quinnen Williams and Logan Wilson played well. I don't think this team has enough to make the postseason. They look like they're going to be on the outside looking in. But what an emotional performance and a great performance from Dak and the Cowboys on Monday Night Football. The Vikings, 9 is not good, but it's early. Give him time. The season's probably over. He just started his 5th game. And like I said earlier, answering Chromie, develop JJ so JJ plays better in games where 9 isn't there yet. He can't have 86 passing yards through 3 quarters and then turn it on in the 4th. We need like 150. Then we can turn it on and throw 150 in the 4th. JJ's got to develop his baseline so when his alias, his alter ego, 9 comes out to play, he's throwing for 320 and not 186 in a loss. Jacksonville rejoins the pyramid. An impressive showing defensively and offensively. They played pissed off, as Josh Hines Allen said. And now they have the ultimate trump card over the Los Angeles Chargers and the Kansas City Chiefs with head-to-head victories. This team better make the postseason, and it would be a great performance this year in Liam Cohen's first year as the head coach. Might revive Trevor Lawrence's run in Jacksonville as well. We'll go to Tier 5 now. The Detroit Lions. Dan Campbell play calling first week with the Commanders. 44 points, 546 total yards. Dan Campbell this week, 9 points, 317 total yards. They will now have to test the run that they have where they have won 10 straight times after losing. See if they can make it 11, but this is such a wishy-washy team, and I have to finally drop them down to Tier 5. The Chicago Bears are right there with them. Caleb now has 5 game-winning drives this year, the most by any quarterback in Bears history since the merger. The Los Angeles Chargers are going to stay where they're at. Herbert is on pace to set the record for quarterback hits and pressures in a single season in NFL history, both pre-merger and post-merger. The Packers. Any win on the road in the NFL is great, and they got a good one over famous Jameis. And the Giants, a clutch one at the end with Savion Williams and Christian Watson making incredible catches. You want more offense, but they have really one of the best closers in the game in Micah Parsons. You get in the fourth quarter and you're trailing to the Packers, it's over. Micah is going to find you. He's going to hunt you down, and he will kill you like Liam Neeson in Taken. He will come and find you. He has a particular set of skills that Micah Parsons possesses, and he will find you. If Green Bay has to lead in the fourth quarter and you have to go drive and score, it's over. The Texans, a win is a win is a win is a win. Davis Mills gets a game-winning drive against the Tennessee Titans, and they win 16-13, but no C.J. Stroud against the Bills on Thursday Night Football. The defense is still playing great. Need the defense to show up against Buffalo this weekend, or on Thursday, I should say. Tier 4. Now the tiers start to get smaller finally. The Colts had a bye week, no movement. The Bucs lost 2 of their last 2 against good teams in New England and Buffalo. Kind of heartbreakers. They're still showing a problem where they have, in a big-time game against a big-time team, they don't perform. They're 2-2, or 2-4, I should say. 2-4 in those games against those big teams this year, but they are entirely in the game, so I have to give them credit there. It's not like they're getting blown out. They're a lot like Kansas City, where they're in these games, but they're just losing them. They need to get this win, though, I think, on Sunday Night Football against the Rams to install confidence, and especially if they don't want to be the 4 seed in the playoffs once again. They have to win against Los Angeles on Sunday Night Football. Broncos move up to Tier 4. Another impressive defensive performance. Bo Nix on third down was amazing. All the big throws. At this point, I think you could say Bo is clutch. I think he has that gene at this point. You could say that. They're 7-2 in one-score games, though. And so this could completely flip on its head down the stretch. They could lose these big games. Out of the teams between Indy and New England, I think they're least likely to get the number 1 overall seed down the stretch because I don't know if I can trust them to continue winning games this way. They don't blow out teams. And when you have as an impressive a defense like that and Sean Payton as your offensive play caller, like you feel like you should. You feel like you should have more blowout games. They don't have those right now. They only have 2 this year that aren't by 1 score. See if they can put them together. They need to be the 1 seed, I think, to make the Super Bowl, which is, of course, what they want. The Ravens are going to stay where they're at. Lamar had his worst game of the season, and they got the win over Shador and Dylan Gabriel, who are both terrible in the game. Myles Garrett was just absolutely terrific game wrecker on them. I'm not going to panic on Baltimore after a really kind of hidden under the radar bad performance because I imagine much of the country didn't watch the game because much of the country had, if you don't have Sunday ticket, you had Chiefs Broncos as your CBS game and you had your Fox game was your Seahawks Rams game. And so you didn't watch this game because it wasn't on. If you had Sunday ticket and you actually put it on for whatever reason, it was a really, really struggle fest for the Baltimore Ravens and actually pretty concerning going forward. But it was another great performance from the defense, I guess. And they should continue to rattle wins off.
Can you really count a performance against the Browns as a great performance?
They will. They will use that stat. I wish I had that stat of their last 5 games versus their first 5 games again this week. I don't, but it got better with the performance this weekend. We'll go to Tier 3 now. Excuse me. Buffalo Bills, Josh Allen masterclass, 3 touchdowns through the air, 3 touchdowns on the ground. He was really, really incredible. They rely on him really heavily. They didn't run the ball well, but it didn't matter. Patriots had a bye week, essentially, so no move. They played the Jets on Thursday Night Football. That might as well have been a bye week. Get to play a little scrimmage on Thursday, get a free win, and then get the mini bye. It might as well have been a bye week for them. So really no move for them. Chiefs are going to stay where they're at on tier 3. It was a brutal loss, but they were properly power rated. I had them as 1.5-point favorites, according to the pyramid, going into the week. They lost on a game-winning field goal. They don't lose big games, and so they deserve to be high on any power ranking. The pyramid didn't get exactly what it expected, but it essentially did.
I'm going to have to
losing on a
start
game-winning
putting a little
field
crawl
goal.
at the bottom that says, do not take the pyramid as gambling advice. It's a little disclaimer.
Actually, you're welcome to. Statistically, we are 57 and 54 so far this year at a 51% clip, so positive. But over the last 5 weeks, the pyramid is 28 and 15
Against the spread or outright?
against the spread.
How do you use that? Because like if teams...
So I'm using the pyramid to calculate, based off the tiers, a point differential between the teams. And so this week, for instance,
like when Bills Chiefs were in the same...
when they're in the same, I view them as neutral on a neutral, as they would be a pick 'em on a neutral field.
Oh, and so the home team
So
is
the
a
home field
2.5 point
advantage is
favorite?
where the difference ends up being. And then I base it off what the Vegas spread is. So like for this week, Pittsburgh goes to Chicago. Chicago is a 3-point favorite right now. Based off of my pyramid, I would have Chicago as a 4.5-point favorite at home versus Pittsburgh. 4.5 as a favorite, that's bigger than what I'm getting as a 3. So I would
Would
lean
take
towards Chicago -3 as my pick. Last week we had, for instance, we had Philly as a 6.5-point favorite versus the Detroit Lions, and the spread was only 2.5. So that was one of my best bets. Best bets went 3-0 based off the pyramid last week. So this is it's working so far, and it's been really working the last 5 weeks. It had a tough start, but again, I think there were so many teams that it was really hard because you had 7 teams that were all neutral pick 'em. They wouldn't be that way normally.
And so now we only bet teams that are on the pyramid.
We are
teams
only
that are in the
betting
graveyard
teams-
are just dead.
Yeah, teams that I haven't figured out how to calculate the value for graveyard teams.
Yeah,
That I'm working through to make it accurate,
yeah.
which is kind of controversial because it's using a lot of hindsight bias. But
Well, you
If-
have to use hindsight to test
yes,
it.
if it works out, it works out, and I don't care. Tier 2, the Eagles' defense has been outstanding, especially given what we thought they were going to be coming into the season. And if their concern for them is, are they going to perform offensively? Well, once they have gotten to the postseason, they have been terrific offensively in the postseason. Against the Rams, they were really good. Even go back when they lost the Super Bowl, it was 35-35. And then KC gets the field goal. They dominated Kansas City again offensively in last year's Super Bowl. If that's the concern going forward and this defense will play like it has been, this is one of the most dangerous teams in football. But they're not good enough for Tier 1. Seattle's going to move down to Tier 2. Darnold potentially had his worst game of his career, and yet they still had a game-winning field goal chance against a team that is Tier 1, which is the Los Angeles Rams, because they got the win over Seattle. I think they deserve to be on top of the pyramid. But if they played again right now, as evidenced by my playoff picture earlier, I would pick Seattle over the Los Angeles Rams, regardless of where the game was played. I have to give a ton of credit to the defensive backs. It was what we questioned coming into the game. They had 4 picks as a defensive backfield, stopped touchdowns. Emmanuel Forbes, shout out him. All this being said, again, like we talked about, Rams were Sanders' pick to win the Super Bowl right now. It's completely different to how it was when they won the Super Bowl last time. If they are to win the Super Bowl again this year, they're going to have a top 8 pick because they have the Falcons pick and still have their own first-round pick. Gonna be scary. This can continue to be a team and a force to be reckoned with. And they are on top of the pyramid after week 11.
No big issues. Wynn pointed out that Chiefs above the Broncos when we just saw the head-to-head is crazy. The Broncos won by 2 at home, so that's
1 by 3. at
1 by
home.
3. Excuse me.
So they would have won by 0.5 points on a neutral field.
And in theory, the Chiefs would have won if they were at home because it'd be a 5-point swing. So Chiefs win by 2.
Yeah,
GG.
again, like I said last week, I had Kansas City above Denver. The spread was Denver plus 3.5. It was Kansas City were favored by 3.5 points. I actually leaned Denver plus 1.5. I thought that was too many, and so we picked Denver as one of my best bets, and it hit. So Pyramid was technically right that this game was a lot closer than meets the eye, and they now are even closer according to the Pyramid. Now it would be on a neutral field, Kansas City would be favored by 2. So it's not that big of a difference, really, at all.